Chanting.
ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे
वन्दे
गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तमाविद्विषावहै
विद्विषावहै।
ॐ शान्तिः
ॐ
शान्तिः
शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
ॐ तत्सत् ॐ नमः शिवाय
ॐ तत्सत् ॐ नमः शिवाय।
So we are on verse number 140 of Aparoksha Anubhuti. So let us unmute ourselves. We'll chant that. Verse number 140. Bhavitam तीव्रवेगेण
भावितं तीव्रवेगेन
यद्वस्तु निश्चयात्मना
यद्वस्तु
यद्वस्तु निश्चयात्
पुमांस्तद्धि भवेत् शीघ्रम्
पुमांस्तद्विभ्रम्
ज्ञेयं भमरकीटवत्
ज्ञेयं
भ्रमरकीटवत्.
So in the last class, with the 139th verse, the very long exposition of Nididhyasanam was over. Now what remains? The phalam remains, the fruit of the Nididhyasanam, that remains. That is being now given. So yat vastu, the third word, yat vastu, that entity, which is what? Karya, Karana, Vilakshana, Brahman. That Brahman, that Atman, which is neither a cause nor a product. So that vastu, bhavitam. Bhavitam means you have done Nididhyasanam and you have come to the conclusion that I am that Brahman. So yad vastu, I am. That Brahman, I am. That is what is spelled by yad vastu bhavitam. So I have ended up after Nididhyasanam, which was preceded by Shravanam and Mananam. Long Shravanam and long Mananam. I have done Nididhyasanam and I have now come to the conclusion that I am Brahman. And what sort of conclusion is that? Nishchayatmana. It's a very firm conclusion based on my meditation, based on my Shravanam, based on the logical analysis which I have done in Mananam. So it is unshakable. Right. So this is a firm conviction. And remember that this conviction arose out of the meditation. The meditation is always in the form of a thought. What was that thought? I am Brahman. So here again I will repeat what we have said before. Not only is it important to say I am Brahman, the Satyam part of it, but to say that I am not the universe, I am not Jagat, the Mithya negation is also important. So both Jagan Mithya, Jagan Satyam, sorry, Brahma Satyam and Jagan Mithya, both are important. First you come up with Jagan Mithya, you convince yourself that this universe and this body-mind complex is indeed Mithya. Then you move on to Brahma Satyam, that Brahman I am. Which means that why do you do the negation first? Why do you do the Jagan Mithya first? Because I have all sort of wrong self-conclusions in my mind. This is, I am this body, I am this mind. All those conclusions have to be negated, have to be removed, have to be erased. And that is why in the Shruti, you will find that there are two types of statements. One is called Nisheda Vakyam, which means they are saying that you are not this, Neti Neti. And one is called Vidhi Vakyam, this is what you are. So two things, both are important. Okay. And this Nididhyasanam is to be done how? Tivra Vegena, with deep sincerity. because it is the most important thing that I am doing in my life. And once you have done all that, what are the things you have done? Yad vastu bhavitam nishchayatmanu. I have meditated upon Brahman in the form of the firm conviction that I am Brahman. I have accepted that and I have done it with great sincerity. Tivra vegena. Then what will happen? Pumam, the meditator, that person, tadhi bhavet shighram, will become that Brahman himself quickly. That Brahma Jnanam will become spontaneous. You will no longer have to constantly remind yourself that you are Brahman. This assimilation, uh, assimilation of the knowledge, where I spontaneously remember that I'm Brahman, that is what is known as assimilation, the Brahma Jnanam, the Jnana Nishtha. Right? And he gives a very nice example, which is very often given in Shastra. So Shankaracharya gives an example. He says, Jneyam Bhamara Kitavat. This has to be understood, Jneyam, with the example of the Bhamara Kita. So Bhamara is a wasp and Kita is a worm. So there is a story which is given, there's an example which is given, that this wasp, he builds his nest and then he takes a worm from somewhere and he puts that worm in the nest, right? And then he sits outside and watches. Now the worm is within the nest, and every time the worm tries to get out, comes out of the nest, this wasp is watching and gives us a sting. So once the worm is stung, then he goes back into the nest. And every time he comes out, the wasp stings the worm. So sooner or later, what happens? The worm gets very, very frightened and constantly begins to think of the wasp. Out of fear, of course, that every time I go out, I will get stung by this wasp. So that thought is there in the worm's mind all the time. What is the example? What is the example trying to convey?
We will
The
think
thought,
of Brahman again and again
Yeah,
whenever. Yeah.
constantly think. So the story is that constantly thinking of the wasp, the worm itself becomes a wasp. True or false? Let's not get into that. But this is a story that what you think, so you become. And therefore, Shankara is saying that we are all like those that worms. Uh, and the Mahavakyam has to be hammered into us again and again by the teacher who is the wasp. Right? So every time we come out, the teacher bangs us with the Mahavakyam Tattvamasi. And then sooner or later, we are thinking so much about that Brahman that we become that Brahman. It's a very nice example. True, false, let us not get it. Now, verse number 141. Adrishyam bhavarupancha
adrishyam
Adrishyam
Bhavarupancha
bhavarupancha
sarvameva chidatmakam
sarvameva
Sarvametadidātmakam
chidatmakam
savadhanataya nityam
Savadhanataya
savadhanatya
nityam
nityam
svatmanam bhavayed buddha.
svatmanam
Atmanam bhavayet buddhaha.
buddha.
So the idea being conveyed is that just like the worm keeps on thinking about the wasp, we in Nididhyasanam should keep on thinking about Brahman. And in what manner? That I am that Brahman. That constant thought will change me from a samsari to a jnana-nishtha. That is what is being conveyed here. So he says, Buddha swatmanam niyatam bhavayet. This wise man, Buddha. Wise man means what? The one who has gone through karma yoga, upasana yoga, shravanam, and maranam. That all that you have to supply. Buddha, the wise man, is one who has done shravanam, mananam, which was preceded by karma yoga and upasana yoga. He sadhana chatushtayam, and then he has come to jnanam. He has got the jnanam through shravanam, He has done mananam, and then now his jnanam is unshakable. So then what does he do? Swatmanam nityam bhavet. He meditates all the time on Swatmanam, I Brahman. And what is that? Chidatmakam. I am in the nature of consciousness only. So I Brahman am in the nature of existence, consciousness, and bliss. And not only that, Sarvam Eva. I alone am in the form of everything. I am the universe also. I am Paramatma also. So why is this being said again and again? Because if I consider that consciousness is different from matter, so remember that we use this consciousness is different from matter. We distinguish matter and consciousness, yes, but this is in the very, very beginning stages. What is the problem if you continue to distinguish consciousness as different from matter? Then the observer consciousness will find that he is different from the observed. There will be a observed observer difference. And we all know that, taking the example, say the example of the dream world, we know that the dream world, the dreamer, the dream objects, the dream tiger, the dream elephant, all this, including the dream observer, is not different from the dream observer himself. It is all in the mind. It is not different from the mind itself. Similarly, the waking world, he says, is not different from the waking observer. To put it in brief, the idea conveyed is that we must always remember that I, the observer, am not different from the observed objects, the observed world. And this kind of meditation is called Sarvatma Bhava. Dhyanam on Sarvatma Bhava. Sarvatma Bhava is what? I am everything. The meditation has to end up with I alone am everything. Then only there is Advaita. What we call Advaita Siddhi. The conviction that I alone am there. Right? And once I am convinced that I am everything, what is there that I can miss? Because nothing is away from me. I am everything. So there is nothing that I should miss because everything I am. So he uses the word adrishyam bhava rupancha. This is the explanation for sarvam, everything. What is that? Adrishyam bhava rupancha. Both the avyakta prapancha, the invisible, unmanifest universe, and vyakta prapancha, the universe in front of me, the manifest universe, both are not different from me. In other words, both subtle universe, sukshma prapancha, and gross universe, sthula prapancha, they are not different from me. I alone constitute both of them. So the universe which is manifest, the universe which is not manifest, the universe which I experience, the universe which I don't experience, they are all not different from me. This is the meditation on Sarvatma Bhavaha. And how should you do this meditation? Savadhanataya, with complete attention. Savadhan means pay attention, complete attention. And once you do that, what will happen? I am everything. Aham sarvam must or will become a fact for me. And that for me is very important. In Nididhyasana, remember the fact that you are everything is your conviction. Right? Don't go and tell that to your wife or husband. They will laugh at you. Okay? And it doesn't matter. Others agreeing with you or not doesn't matter. Your intellect must accept that you are everything. Savadhanataya, right? With attention, with lot of focus, with lot of commitment. Now you look at verse number 142. Drishyam hridashyata hridashyatam nitva
दृश्यं ह्यदृश्यतां नीत्वा
ब्रह्मकारेण चिन्तयेत्
ब्रह्माकारेण चिन्तयेत्
विधिवन्नित्यसुखे तिष्ठे विद्वान् नित्यसुखे तिष्ठेत्
विद्वान्नित्सुखे तिष्ठेत्
या छिद्रसम्पूर्णया
धिया चित्रसपूर्णया
The first word is drishyam. Drishyam is whatever is experienced, whatever is known, whatever is an object. And under the drishyam, what all fall? My body, my mind, and the entire universe itself. So whatever I experience is drishya. And he adrishyatam. Drishyam he adrishyatam. What is adrishya? Whatever cannot be experienced is adrishya. And if the whole world is drishyam, what is adrishyam?
that which cannot be seen.
Brahman.
Sukshma.
A better answer.
Whatever cannot be experienced is Brahman.
Yeah, but give it a better answer. You're in the final stage. Sorry?
Beyond sense perception.
Whatever cannot come in the contact of senses.
See, we are in the final stages of Nididhasanam. There are only two things. What are they? Experiencer and experienced. Whatever is experienced is drishyam. Whatever is non-experienced is what? Experiencer.
Myself.
It is I, the experiencer,
myself.
who is always adrishyam. Right? I, the seer, can never be seen. I, the hearer, can never be heard. I, the knower, the pramata, can never be known. I, the experiencer, can never be experienced. And therefore, adrishyam means I, Brahman, I, Atman. It's not enough to say adrishyam means Atman. Why? It is not
Because
enough
then
to say
Atman becomes another thing. So it's not
another thing.
I the Atman.
Correct. Adrishyam, in this context, when you say adrishya, drishya, the experience is the world, the body, the mind, everything. But adrishyam is always I, the subject, Atman, Brahman. If you say just I, it becomes Atman, then you are taking Atman as another object. You have gone back to the beginning stages. Okay, so adrishyam means I, Atman. And in this meditation, what am I supposed to do? Drishyam hi adrishyitam nitva. So adrishyitam here means I, the Atman. Nitva means to dissolve or to resolve. Drishyam means the entire universe. Drishyam hi, that entire universe indeed, adrishyata nitva, should be merged into I, Brahman, should be merged into I, Atman. Again, this is not a physical resolution. The pot can be resolved into clay in two ways. One is by destroying the pot. One is simply by understanding that there is no substance called the pot. It's nothing but clay. Pravilapanam, we call it. The knowledge which results in the pot idea, a nama rupa being destroyed, that is what is being talked about. The entire universe should be understood as nama rupa, should be understood as mithya only. What is the substratum? I, the Atman, I, Brahman. This matter is this non-substantial namarupa. What is the substance? I, the consciousness principle alone. And therefore, drishyam hi drisyatam nitva. This is what I do in meditation. In Nididhyasanam, I am doing this. I am resolving the whole world into myself by convincing myself that the world is mithya and cannot exist without me. So you have to tell yourself that this universe cannot be proved to be existing unless I am there, right? You have to understand the fact the universe exists because of you, the observer. Now, there is a possible question. You might say that, okay, when I say that, my friends tell me that I also observe the world. How can you say the world is not there without you, the observer? What is the answer to that?
The friends who say so are also that very same consciousness.
Very good. For the friend who says that I also observe the world, your answer is that your observed world is not different from you, the consciousness principle, right? And therefore, if the consciousness principle is not there, you cannot say that there is a world. In short, if consciousness is not there, no world can be said to exist. And therefore, we say consciousness alone proves existence. It is Chit. Because of Chit alone, Sat can be talked about. And if there is no Sat, then there will be no Chit either. So, Sadeva Chit, Chideva Sat. Both are not, they cannot separate them at all. Without existence, there is no consciousness. Without consciousness, you cannot talk about existence. And then, Drishyam hi adrishyatam nitva, having merged this anatma world into the adrishyam, the consciousness, Brahman, Brahma karena chintayet. Brahma akarena chintayet. One should think of that consciousness as Brahman, that Brahman which I am. That consciousness principle which is I, the ever evident consciousness which doesn't need any proof. That is behind my body mind, of course, but it is behind every body and every mind. So I am the consciousness principle behind every body because of which the world is known. So in the dream, for example, the dreamer, the dreamer Jiva, where does he borrow consciousness from?
Waker's mind.
From
Waker.
the waker. From the waker, right? So one waker, he lends consciousness to not only himself in the dream. Supposing there are other jivas in his dream, that one waker lends consciousness to every jiva in the dream, is it not? Similarly, I, Brahman, in the waking state, I lend consciousness to every jiva in the waking state. And because of this consciousness which is lent to every jiva in the waking state, therefore, every jiva knows the world. So you can say, I alone illumine the world. I alone give existence to the world. Because of this consciousness which I am lending to all jivas, I am also giving existence to this world. And therefore, Vidwan, the one who has, the wise man who has done Shravanam, Mananam, and is now doing Nididhyasanam, meditation in this manner, Vidwan Dhiya Nitya Sukhe Tishte. With this awareness, the wise man will abide in Brahman, will remain in Brahman, Tishte. So he's talking about Jnana Nishtha. He will become a Jnana Nishtha, and that Nishtha is what? Eternal bliss, eternal Ananda. And abiding, again, the word abiding, we should understand. In fact, the word abiding is not a good word. Why? Because there is no question of the wise man abiding in Brahman. The moment you say, I am abiding in some place, what happens? There is duality. There is I, and then there is that place. So if you say, I am abiding in Brahman, or if you say the wise man abides in Brahman, then you are talking about two people, two things. One is the wise man and one is Brahman. So the correct answer is that abiding should be understood as the wise man is Brahman indeed. Okay. Now I can ask another question over here. Can we say that it is the mind abiding in Brahman? The mind of the wise man abiding in Brahman.
Yes.
Is there anything problematic with that statement?
Yes, because the mind will, for one moment, it will be abiding in Brahman, and for the next moment, maybe in some other thought.
No,
So it's
Jnani,
teaching.
The mind is also Brahman only. So to say that statement, mind is abiding in Brahman, is
The
creating
problem
again
is that the mind always has substrate. Mind is mithya, right? Where does mithya abide? What is the support for mithya?
Satyam.
Satyam. Satyam is what? Brahman. And therefore, when you say the jnani's mind abides in Brahman, then somebody can say, what about the ajnani? Where does his mind abide? You see,
Unknowingly not. Also in,
both the mind of the jnani and the ajnani, both are mithya.
yes,
Both have Satyam as the adhishthanam, as the substratum. Therefore, both the
yes.
minds abide in Brahman. So, when you say the mind abide in Brahman, you are not talking about the mind being the Brahman being the substratum. When you are saying the Jnani's mind abides in Brahman, you are saying the Jnani is thinking about Brahman, right? For example, you say, my mind is in Switzerland. What does it mean?
I'm thinking of Switzerland. Yeah,
I'm
my
thinking of
mind.
Switzerland. So
Yeah.
that exactly is what is meant here. When you say I abide in Brahman, you are saying that I am constantly remembering the thought that Aham Brahma Asmi. And such a person, he says, Chidra Sampurnaya Dhya. Chidra Sampurnaya Dhya. So it's a very nice word, Chidra Sampurnaha. You have to break it up into Chit plus Rasa, Chidra Sampurnaha. Chit plus Rasa plus Purna. So Chit means Chaitanyam. Rasa means what? What is Rasa? Taste. Right? Something is sweet
Yes.
taste. You say mango ras, aam ras.
Mm.
So sweet taste. And therefore here that has to be taken as Ananda. So Chit means consciousness. That is Chit. Rasa is Ananda. And Purna means what? Purna is infinite, Ananta. And therefore Chit, Chidra Sampurnaya Dhya means Sat Chit Ananda Brahma only. Dhya means Vritya, the Vritti, the thought. So the thought, Dhya, is about Sat Chit Ananda Brahman, the Akhand Akara Vritti. So with that Akhand Akara Vritti, which is basically Aham Brahma Asmi, Aham Sarvam, all that you have studied, any thought regarding Brahman, that is called Brahmakara Vrittihi. With that thought, he should abide in Brahman. So he is defining what is meant by abiding in Brahman. Any word, any sequence of words, sequence of ideas, sequence of thoughts, which is talking about Brahman, and that is what you're thinking about, that is called abiding in Brahman. And when you do that, what is that? Nitya Sukhe. A person is got pleasure. And the word Nitya in front of Sukhe means eternal pleasure. Why is he using the word eternal here?
Because we have Anandamaya Koshavala Ananda also, which is not.
Correct. You have reflected Ananda, experienced Ananda, which is not eternal. So Nitya Sukha means not experienced Ananda, but the Ananda born out of the knowledge that I am Brahman. So what is called Purnatvam. That Purnatvam is being called Nitya Sukha. Fulfillment born out of knowledge. And once the knowledge is there, it doesn't go away. The fulfillment also doesn't go away. Therefore, through such a thought, through such a vritti, one should abide in Brahman. One should constantly be thinking about Brahman. Okay. Now we go to verse number 143. Let's chant. Ebirangai samayuktaha
Ebirangai
Rangai
samayuktaha
Samayuktah
ajayoga udharataha
Rajayoga udharataha
kinchit pakvakashayanam
Kinchit pakvakashayanam
hatayogena sanyutaha
Hatayogena sanyutaha.
So the Nididhyasanam topic is now being concluded. So he says, Ebihi Angaihi Samayuktaha. All these angas which we have talked about. What angas? 15 angas. 15 limbs we talked about. What are they called? Udharataha. They are known as Raja Yoga. So they are known as Raja Yoga. So here remember, Raja Yoga is a name which is given to what? To Nididhyasanam, Vedantic meditation, right? And if you read other books, Raja Yoga is being used as a term for Ashtanga Yoga also, right? But here it's being very specific. Shankaracharya says these 15 angas only, when you put them together, they are called Raja Yogas, right? Remember that we talk about, generally, we talk about four of them: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, right? They are usually presented as, by a lot of teachers, as four independent means of moksha. But Advaita Shastram, Vedanta Shastram does not accept that they are independent means. We say this are sequential only. And what is that? Karma Yoga is for Chitta Shuddhi, Bhakti Yoga or Upasana Yoga is for the focusing of the mind, Chitta Ekagrata. So Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Ekagrata are achieved through Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Jnana Yoga is for Shravanam and Mananam. And here Raja Yoga is separated, meaning Nididhyasanam. So Karma Yoga for Chitta Shuddhi, Upasana Yoga for Chitta Ekagrata, Jnana Yoga, Shravanam and Mananam to get knowledge and to get doubtless knowledge, and Raja Yoga to assimilate the knowledge. This is how we have to understand. So he says, Kinchit Pakva Kashayana. Okay. So here the words are to be understood. Kinchit Pakva Kashaya. Kashaya means what? Kashaya means impurity. Okay. Pakva means you have freed yourself from that impurity. The impurity has been eliminated. Pakva Kashaya means free from impurity. But there's another word in front. Kinchit Pakva Kashaya. Kinchit here means limited. So Kinchit Pakva Kashaya Nam. This is the term for a set of people. Kinchit Pakva Kashaya Nam. People who have only a limited freedom from impurity. So it's a very long explanation for what we call people who are Manda Adhikaris, who are beginners, who are not able to do Nididhyasana, right? So partially pure people whose Chitta Shuddhi is not complete, they are called Kinchit Pakva Kashaya, people who have got limited freedom from impurities. And therefore they cannot come to Nididhyasanam. So what should they do? Hatha yogena sanyutaha. They must be concentrating on Hatha yoga. Their Raja yoga they may continue, but Hatha yoga support is necessary. So the mental discipline has to be supported by physical discipline also. And you can say Ashtanga yoga, Patanjali, that is Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, all Hatha yoga. Why? Because you're physically training the personality. And remember here that Yama Niyama involves mental discipline also, puja also, asana pranayama, disciplining the body. Therefore, the first four angas, Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, they can be called Hatha yoga. And the last four angas, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyanam, Samadhi, they can be called Raja yoga. So this is one way in which people present, and that is what he is presenting here. The idea here is that Hatha yoga practice independently is not going to give you any advantage. Hatha yoga has to be followed by Raja yoga if you want to be on the spiritual path. When we come to the last verse, verse number 144, we will chant. Paripakvam mano yesham
परिपक्वं मनो येषाम्
येषाम्
Kevaloyam cha siddhidah
केवलोऽयं च
केवलोऽयं
सिद्धिदः
सिद्धिदः
Kevaloyam cha siddhidah
केवलोऽयं च
केवलोऽयं च
सिद्धिदः
सिद्धिदः
Gurudevata bhaktanam
गुरुदैवभक्तानां
भक्तानां
Sarvesham sulabho javat.
सर्वेषां
सर्वेषां
सुलभो जवात्
भोजवा
So yesham, those people, manaha paripakvam, where the mind has ripened out, where the mind is a mature mind, where the mind is got sadhana chatushtayam, means he is a adhikari. A person who is a adhikari, esham mano paripakvam, that person who is a adhikari for yoga, for what? For jnana yoga. Adhikari is always for jnana yoga, sadhana chatushtayam, right? You have to remember tattva bodha. And what is being said about such a person, about adhikari? Ayam kevalaha sasiddhadha. For such a person, only Raja Yoga is sufficient. They have to practice pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Such a person who is already qualified, who is already adhikari, he has done a lot of practice. He need not take to Hatha Yoga. Right? And if a person is not qualified, he has to go to Hatha Yoga. But supposing that he is not able to practice Hatha Yoga, right? Why? Because he has got some spinal problem, he has got other physical problems, he is 95 years old. He is not able to do. What should such a person do? Guru Daivata Bhaktanam Sarvesham Sulabho Javat. If a person, Guru and Devata Bhaktaha, he has to become a Bhakta of Guru and God. Of Guru and Ishvara, he has to be a Bhakta, he has to have devotion. And his Guru and Ishvara Bhakti, Guru Bhakti and Ishvara Bhakti, will compensate for the lack of the other qualifications. So bhakti becomes very, very important because there are people who cannot sit, sitting on the ground is a project for them. Where is the question of doing Hatha Yoga? And for such a person, there is a alternate path being shown. You should have Guru Bhakti and you should have Ishvara Bhakti. You should have a religious life. That is why again and again and again we say that Vedanta without a religious life, without sadhana chatushtayam, Vedanta is an academic pursuit. You may be a very good lecturer, a professor, but for you it is just information. Not only for you it is information, there is no transformation for you. because there is no religious background. And if you are not transformed, what you tell your students will also be information. There will be no transformation at all. The whole thing will become a simple academic exercise. It will be useless from the point of moksha. And therefore, Dayanand Swami used to say, that you cannot approach Vedanta in a secular manner. You cannot approach Vedanta like a professor of physics approaches the subject. There it is purely logical, purely critical mind. Vedanta will have no meaning at all without the background of religion, background of bhakti. So bhakti is the atmosphere in which Vedanta will give you its greatest benefit, that is moksha. So he says, Sarvesham Sulabho Javat. Sarvesham, for all those people who have got bhakti, Sulabho Javat. It is easy. Sulabha, it is easy. Moksha is easy. And Javat, quickly. Vedanta will give you moksha quickly and easily. When you have sadhana chatushtayam, when you have bhakti in the Lord and in the Guru, and then when you practice all the jnana yoga that we have talked about. With this, we come to the end of this text. Any questions we can take? It's a very beautiful text. Yeah, please, Manmohan.
It is not my question is not related to this text, but I have a doubt. Now we are thinking of bringing this Vedanta study to universities and all. Now you think there are all these darshanas, and some will say that they are sequential, some will say they are kind of three parallel and then one in the end, because I have heard many such things. Now the student, when someone will read, okay, when we study physics, chemistry, mathematics, different subject we choose or specialization we choose, all of them are scientifically correct. Now in this case, there are more than one thing. Someone is saying this is the correct one, someone is saying this is the correct one. So in that case, what will happen to the student?
See, initially what is going to happen is, you cannot expect that a university course in Vedanta is aimed at moksha. It is aimed at giving you a basic idea of Indian culture. Okay. Two things can happen. One is, after you pass out, you will immediately forget all about what you have studied and go focused on your worldly career, which is going to happen to 95% of the people. Another 5% may not forget, but they'll keep it in their mind, back of their mind, and they'll still work on it. And maybe at a later stage, when they are more free, or when the interest peaks. When does the interest peak? When your prarabdha is right. Then they will say, okay, fine, I've studied all this. I need to understand more. And then only will they come to a proper teacher. Because remember that in that college, teaching is not by a person who is a Jnana-nishtha. It cannot be taken as Vedantic teaching. If I don't know that I am Brahman, how can I tell you that you are Brahman? So I will come up with all sort of analytical, which is not bad at all. I will say this is a view, that is the view, this is a view of Nyaya, this is a view of Sankhya, this is a view of Advaita. You will have an idea. That is about all.
Okay.
Om sir, in IIT Delhi, there is a Swamini who teaches Vedanta to it's part of their syllabus or their course.
Management student.
So, pardon?
She teaches to management student.
Yes, and in IIT Delhi campus. So,
I know,
I don't know.
if I remember correctly, this is not about teaching Vedanta. This is about using Bhagavad Gita concepts as to what you call as managerial framework. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, she teaches meditation, focus, all that, which would probably help in management.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
See, it's all to the good that more and more places like IIT and all are accepting that, yes, there is something which Vedanta can contribute.
Yes.
Hopefully, You can't expect everybody to be, Moksha Purusha, right? You cannot expect everybody to be focused on Advaita also. And there are people who will, in spite of having studied Advaita all their lives, they will still be doubtful about it. Here, of course, I will say that a lot depends on your prarabdha.
Mm.
From the point of view, what's happening, it's all to the good. That children are beginning to know that, Vedanta is not some mumbo jumbo.
Yes.
Acharya drastically contributes to leadership because you become very selfless. You look at the bigger picture.
You look at the bigger picture, providing you are looking at it as a serious Vedantic student. Otherwise, for you, it's just another subject. Interesting subject, which, as I said, it is a seed. The seed doesn't grow everywhere. Some people, the seed will take fruit at some time. If even, 10 out of every 50,000 students come to Vedanta, it's a great achievement.
So, Acharya, it's a very, very long journey, I think. I mean, for myself, this studies has just been apart for the last 2.5 years. So, like you said, long Shravanam, long Mananam, long
Absolutely.
Nidhyasana.
Absolutely. But at the end of 3 or 4 years, you find the difference,
Yeah.
And once that is the turning point, once you find the difference, then you know that it works. There is nobody who can convince anybody that Vedanta works. Only you can convince yourself. And that by seeing the difference in you, by seeing how you are responding to situations.
Yes, but as far as Nidhyasana is also concerned, it's still a very long journey, this entire expansion from
It is very
the
long.
waking state to.
Sometimes it goes. Nididhyasana itself, they say, goes into several lifetimes. It's okay. Krishna has promised, no? Once you
Yes.
are on that escalator, you will not go back.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So thank you for this, joining me in this text. And the text is now over. From the next session, we will be going back to Kathopanishad. So the Prakarana Grantha students, for them, they probably will not be, this will not be available for some more time. But as and when we do Prakarana Granthas, we will come back and include all of you all. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaja Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya.
Namaste.
Bye.